Hi, my name is Antonis and I'm the painter in this video. Today you will see me painting the Holy Face of Jesus Christ, and for this I'm using as a reference a painting by Antonio Correggio, a painter of the Italian Renaissance, which struck me as such a beautiful and visually rich painting of Christ that I really wanted to paint a study on this and see what I can learn by this study and share all this with you. So if you are interested in watching this, stay with me and I will try to share with you as much as I can. So for those of you who are familiar with this channel and my process when I'm doing paintings like this, you know that first I'm doing the drawing on a piece of paper. For this I'm using the grid method and because I want a very accurate drawing of the reference that I'm using. And after I'm transferring the drawing, I do an underpainting with just black, using just black tempera or acrylic color on gesso. I'm not using a canvas to paint on. Here I'm using a wood board prepared with gesso. So after I'm doing this underpainting that you see, I am and you can find more information on this on other previous videos of mine. I'm starting painting with oil. Now, as you see, I am enforcing a little bit the lights of my underpainting with some white tempera, using some thin white tempera or acrylic on the areas of the light of the face. And then I'm just here in this case I'm covering the whole underpainting with a very thin layer of yellow color just to create this warmer effect on the underpainting. I want to proceed with this very quickly, this underpainting process and the background process, and focus a little bit more on the painting of the face process. So, as we know, we can paint oil on top of acrylic or tempera, a water-based medium. We cannot paint the opposite, to paint tempera or something or acrylic on oil. So I want to use water-based mediums for as much as I can before moving on to oil, as you see me doing here. Now, the oil as a medium is of course an amazing way to paint, and it can easily give us some transitions that are not cannot be created with other mediums like watercolor or egg tempera, acrylics, etc. So very easily you'll see these transitions on the background that are very smooth, and after having painted these transitions with oil color, now I'm proceeding with painting the face. So the way I approach this is painting, of course, on the tempera or acrylic underpainting, and this underpainting functions as a guide for me at this point to paint, start painting from the darkest areas, the shadow areas of the face, and then proceed with painting the light. So for painting these shadows here on the face, of course, my reference, the photograph of the painting of Correggio, does give me some ideas on how to proceed. So here I'm creating these warm shadows that I see on my reference photo that Correggio uses, and I'm just placing these shadowy shapes on the face of Christ, trying to be as accurate as possible. To be sincere, I'm not sure if this was his technique. I believe it must have been something pretty close to this, but really I wasn't there to be sure when he was painting. So I try to be to not be stressed and to worry too much about what I'm doing at this point. I'm more in a playful mode, let's say, in exploratory mode. Try to see what will happen, but I want to, although I'm not very accurate at this point, let's say. I try to not be very flimsy. I try to be as delicate with the use of color as I can. I don't want to be all over, and I want to somehow, I want to carefully add these shapes of shadow on the face without painting any areas that later on will be painted with light. So for this I'm mixing on my palette those dark brownish colors that you see by mixing black, a little bit of alizarin red. You can add a little bit of cadmium red as well, and use a variation of darker tones that can be warm, enough warm or less warm, darker than others or lighter than others, and just block areas of on the surface of the face with shadowy oil color. You see here, for example, that I'm using a brownish color that is more greenish than reddish. So there is some variation on these shadows that I'm using here color-wise. I really didn't know how to proceed or something, how I don't know if this method was correct, but what does correct mean in art? The important is to just apply some color, paint something, and then see what you can do with that. We can never be sure about anything when we paint, and but we can do some corrections. We can do some, rearrangement of color as soon as we have painted something. So don't be afraid to apply color. Don't be afraid to start painting, even if you are not sure about what you are doing. Not being sure about what we do when we paint is a good way to paint, and all artists universally struggle with this issue. So now, as you see, I have applied some lighter patches, let's say, of color on the edge of the shadow shapes, and these colors are more cold, let's say. They are more greenish, grayish, bluish in some areas, and at this point I'm only interested on what's happening between the shadow shapes that I have painted earlier before and the beginning of the shapes of the light. I'm not interested on what's going to follow later on in the central areas of the light. I just want to see how can I blend these lighter colors of transition, let's call them, between light and shadow, and in a way that can be visually rich, nice, and convincing. So I want these colors to be bright enough. I want them to be saturated enough in this case, and little by little I will use my brush to move these in between colors around here and there and create this foggy effect that we so often call it sfumato. Correggio was a master of creating these soft transitions, foggy transitions between light and shadow, and as you see here, I apply the painting, and then with a dry brush, a brush that doesn't contain any color at all, I will move this color around in a way that will create this very soft, very smoky effect of transition in color. Hi, so on patreon.com you can find my full tutorial along with so many others about the Sfumato technique, the way I've painted this study on Salvatore Mundi. And this is an in-detail lesson on the brushes, the colors that I've used, the way of handling the color and the brushes. And I hope you will find this very informative and useful for you. Thank you so much. You see that this right cheek is a little bit warmer than the other cheek. This is something that is that my reference gives me as information. I see that this other cheek can be a little bit more warm. And one thing I've noticed on my palette is that the colors that I'm using when I'm painting these light areas, let's say, of the face are not very bright. They are low in value. Sometimes we think that we have to create colors that are very close to white, but by comparing, a white piece of paper with my color paddles on my palette, I see that these color mixtures that I've used are very low in value in comparison to pure white. So feel free to experiment a little bit with your palette. So now that I have, as you see, now that I have created this first in-between layer and a transition between the shadow and the light, I'm proceeding with painting the light shapes on the face. So what I'm doing here is I'm just adding color on these areas of light. This color here consists of titanium white, a little bit of cadmium red, a little bit of cadmium yellow. It can contain a little bit of black just to grayish it slightly, and I will add these shapes of light. Then I will try to blend those with the work that I have previously done. The important, of course, is to create the right color on your palette, to use the right tool, the right brush. And what does right brush mean? Right brush doesn't mean an expensive brush. The brush actually that I'm using here is a very cheap synthetic brush. All of the brushes that I'm using for this study, they are cheap synthetic. I come from a background of egg-tempera, where expensive brushes are very important. Kolinsky brushes are very, very important for a nice result. So I used to think that something similar must be applied on oil painting, but it's not. The important in oil painting is to being able to move the color around, to push the color and manipulate the color in a way that feels good to you as a painter, and that's that. It can be a brush that is much used. It can be a harder brush, a softer brush. It depends on your needs. For paintings like this, where we don't use heavy impasto for the painting, a softer acrylic synthetic brush is very works very nice. Now, see how I apply different variations of color here at this point. Some of these colors are more pinkish, some are more grayish, greenish, and this is according to what I see on my reference. I don't care at this point about blending this. I don't mind that they look very, they don't look great so far. I just want to apply some color on the face of Christ. That seems promising that in a little bit when I'll do my blending, they will blend nicely. I try to not go all over the place, to just apply the color, and it really sometimes this process really does remind me, although I've never applied makeup on myself, but it does seem that something very similar to applying makeup and smearing the colors and the shadows and all these, like in the makeup process. It's very similar in some way, and I'm glad many people recognize this. Many people who have great experience as makeup artists do recognize this in this process. So this, I don't know if this seems simple to you or not. It's simple enough. It does require, though, some experience, some practice. So the important here, and something that I would like to tell you, is that to never forget to apply everything you learn from your teachers here from YouTube, or to apply those in your practice, to be in your studio and paint as much as you can, to not listen in voices saying that your talent is not enough. Practice is something very important, and many people with talent just forget to practice, and that's a waste of their talent. On the other hand, we have people who are very diligent in working and work hard, and they see so much progress in their work. And also I have to say that the joy of creating something and painting something, is something different than being talented. We paint even if the result is not fantastic or whatever. We paint for the joy of painting and for the pleasure of seeing something being created in front of our eyes. So find a teacher that you trust. A great teacher really can save you some time, can guide you on the right path on this journey in painting. On the contrary, a bad teacher can confuse a student and can make a student lose his or her enthusiasm about painting. So make sure that you find a teacher you trust, and make sure that you paint a lot and you stay a lot in your studio. So now you see that I have started blending these colors that I have previously applied, and again I'm using this softer brush to manipulate the color and move the color here and there. You can find my full tutorials on Patreon, many tutorials on Sfumato, the colors on egg tempera portrait, realistic egg tempera portraits on my Patreon page, where we have also those live streams. We meet on camera and we talk about, we share images of our artworks. We get to meet each other in person, and it's really great. It's a great way to also support me as an artist on Patreon, and really I have to thank my supporters there, because without their help I wouldn't be able to produce these videos, to being more in my studio and make these videos for everybody. So thank you, my Patreon supporters, and I hope to see you there, and you can benefit from the exclusive content that you'll find on Patreon. Though I post there regularly, I try here to be very to share with you without withholding any information, and I'm very thankful for your comments and the beautiful responses in the comments that I have from you. So thank you for subscribing in this channel. We already have hit 50,000 subscribers. That's something that's amazing, and really, thank you all so much for your beautiful, nice presence. I'm so glad when I get comments about how these videos inspire you to be more creative, to start painting again, or to get the inspiration, listen to no noises around you, and get to be in the studio. These are very, very inspiring comments, and thank you all so much for your beautiful presence here. Also, I want to thank you all so much for commenting on my accent. I know it's a thick Greek accent that I'm having, but people are very, very supporting on that as well. So thank you so much. I bet most of you are accustomed by now by the way I speak, all my mistakes, and the character of my voice. So as you see, little by little, this portrait of Christ really gets along, and now it's a matter of moving back and forth. It's a matter of doing these blendings, adding color. So intuition is a very, very important part here. You have to trust your intuition and really ask yourself, okay, what color should I use here, what color should I use there. And also it's important to being able to block the areas that you are interested in painting. For example, as you see, the areas within the light are a little bit, they're not as nicely painted as I would want, but I have focused on the area between the shadow and the light, this in between transition, and that looks great to me. So I keep that. I'm able to be happy with this transition, and then on a later stage I will focus more on what's happening more centrally and more on areas of light. So make sure that you are able to somehow how can I say, I'm not finding a word right now, but you are able to be happy with specific areas of the painting, and when you are happy with those, proceed with other areas. This painting was painted in two sittings, I would say. And since the layers of color are relatively thin, within a day or two, what I've painted is dry, and I can safely proceed with adding further layers of painting. Now, I know that oil is a confusing medium for many people, but I would definitely suggest you to give it a try. As many of you know, I'm an egg tempera painter. I really enjoy painting with egg tempera, and painting with oil is a completely different philosophy. Something a completely different approach of the manipulation of color. So, but still, I've learned so much, and I've been able to get so much joy by painting things that I could never paint with tempera. Tempera has another kind of charm. It's a beautiful medium, and I truly suggest those of you who are not familiar with egg tempera to give it a try and see what you can paint with this. So as you see, I'm done here with the flesh area. And proceeding with painting the hair a little bit. Here I can only say how much I admire these old masters and the Correggio here on this case. I see that the hair that he's painted are so fine, they are so delightful, they are so masterfully painted. I just for me, it's a wonder how these people were able to produce such delicate and fine qualities in painting, and it's just something to admire and hope to achieve a fraction of that. So I'm painting these locks of his hair here using a brush that feels that can give me these shapes, let's say, of light, this smooth, relatively smooth locks of hair. Now I'll do on Patreon a full tutorial both on the flesh painting of the face and the hair, along with the wreath on the face of Christ. So for if you feel like you need more information in more detail, you can find me there on Patreon. So here I'm just trying to give a similar impression of what I see on the reference. I know it's too complicated to go, hair by hair and do exactly the same thing that Correggio has done. So I'm just trying to give a similar impression of the softness and the shininess of the hair, and see if this works and gives me some nice, beautiful result. Of course, I have to say that also the expression of this Christ that I have painted is slightly different than the work of the Correggio. So I don't claim this to be a copy of the work of Correggio. I could say this painting can be referred as, a painting that has been inspired by his work and loosely inspired by him, trying to learn something. Now on Patreon you'll be able to find also some paintings by me that are on sale, and if you are interested in having something from my studio and me, you can check my shop on Patreon. So I was very astonished by this painting, and more, I would say, I'm more astonished by what, as I said earlier, practice can achieve. If you go back on my videos, you will definitely see that there is some improvement in me, because I always seek I am always in the spirit of learning, always in the spirit of experimenting and exploring. So if you go and see some videos a couple of years ago, you'll definitely see the difference, and how much I have evolved as a painter, just by doing these studies and by doing this practice, and by getting pleasure out of painting those. Even when I'm painting Byzantine icons, which is the area of, let's say, expertise, or the area where I have the most experience. Even in that area, I have seen so much improvement throughout these years of intense practicing. So, really, the message today is find a teacher that you trust, just for keeping you on track, and then trust your own instinct, trust the practice in your studio, and you will see so much improvement. The materials require us to get familiar with them. Even the best painters have to familiarize themselves with how those materials function, their properties. So this requires some practice. Of course, I was so amazed by the way Correggio has painted this wreath. It was truly amazing for me. Really, those masters can be judged by their devotion on details, and their devotion on the little things, the little details. They gave all their attention to everything, and that's so inspiring, and really what makes them different from mediocre painters, and so really spend some time watching those painters, and try to learn by doing studies on their works. So this was for today. I hope this video was helpful to you and inspired you to be more in the studio. Thank you so much again for your support in your comments, in sharing these videos with people that might be interested, and try to get as much pleasure from creating things as possible. Thank you again so much. I will see you soon with another video. Bye.